tools from Flex, both running on their 24-volt battery platform. We have the 2.5-inch compact bandsaw with a brushless motor, and we also have the FX2351, which is the 5-inch deep cut brushless bandsaw. Now let's take a look closer at the FX2331, and then we'll jump back over here to the deep cut 2351. Now, as we mentioned, this runs on their 24-volt battery platform, and you can see the battery mount here on the front of the tool by the auxiliary or secondary handle here. The primary handle can be used for making those smaller cuts if you need to, and then adding that second hand on those larger cuts as well. We get tool-free blade changes, and we also get a hinged blade cover as well. A lot of times this is kind of a secondary accessory on these compact bandsaws, but on this one everything is covered, and we can just flip these two little levers and that opens up, and that gives us access to those pulleys. Take a closer look here on these rubber guided pulleys. This freewheels, this one is obviously driven by the motor, and we get a brush that keeps those clean to keep those fragments or metal particulate from actually getting into that band and causing issues by not being able to drive the saw band correctly. We'll install that here in just one moment, but I do like to see that blade cover that's included in the actual purchase of the saw. Closer look here at the rollers, and we get dual ball bearing rollers on either side, as well as we get a ball bearing roller that's going to act as a guide to keep that band from pushing further down, and we get it on the opposite side as well. So we don't just have a hard surface it's riding against, we also have a roller ball bearing that's acting as a guide, keeping that from being driven down into the body of the tool. We also get an additional roller right here. Sometimes that is overlooked on this kind of back stretch, if you will, where this band rides around here. That's not the cutting surface, but sometimes it wants to walk back here as well. So another additional pulley to keep that from happening. We do get an adjustable blade rest, so we can set it to where maybe we want it as a backstop, or we can set it up to where we want it to actually clear the material if we need to do that. With the battery in here, you see when I pull the trigger, we also get an LED light here that's going to shine right there on our cutting area of the blade. We get an Allen wrench on board, so stored here in the tool, so if we do need to make these adjustments, we can do so. Now it runs a pretty standard 32 7/8 inch by 1/2 inch blade, and I believe it comes with a 14-18 tooth per inch blade, so a variable 14-18 blade. Of course, you can get other blades as you want to. Let's go ahead and install this blade. I'm going to flip this over, take this battery out, and we'll flip this up so maybe we can watch this whole thing here. And I'm going to make sure that I flip open this here, and actually unlock is all the way down here. So I already had it open. You may want to wear a pair of gloves when you do this, and then first just kind of mount this in the rollers the best that you can, and then just kind of work it around. Make sure you're seated all the way down on the bearings here on the guides. And now, while you've got the blade down, you can flip your lever, get some tension on it, and then go ahead and lock it out. And again, make sure you're in all of your guides here, all your roller guides. Make sure you're in there and not binding on something. Then we can test it. I usually kind of bump it a few times to make sure we're riding true. And then hold the power button on, or the throttle button on, trigger, whatever you want to call that. Hold it on and make sure that this blade's not walking to and fro and roaming around, or kind of walking out the edge and trying to cut on something. That's riding very true. And you can see here. Riding nice and straight. And you can watch this blade on the backside where it's kind of wanting to walk, but that ball bearing is doing a great job of keeping that true. But up here around the guide area, it's keeping it nice and taut. So when we're cutting on something, it's not going to want to walk out of those guides. Now, as for the opening here, We get a little more than 2.5 inch opening. It is called a 2.5 inch compact bandsaw. So the opening is definitely 2.5 inches, looks like almost 2.6 inches. And then as far as floor to ceiling, you're looking at about 2.5 inches there as well. You also get a rafter hook on this if you want to hang this on something. So whether it be a 2x4 or a railing or something like that, you get a full 2-inch opening here in the rafter hook. And we also get a variable speed trigger. So you see we can cut really, really slow if we want to, or give it as much throttle as we want to in calling on that motor, calling on that blade, depending on what we're cutting as to how much speed we want. Also make sure that your teeth are oriented the correct way as well, based on the rotation of the blade or the rotation of the motor itself. Now, one thing I love about these flex batteries is the fact that when we push a button on the battery, there's no guessing as to how much fuel or charge is left in that battery. You see the big green LED lights on both sides of the battery where you can easily see the indicator and how much life you have left. Let's swap this out. Now let's take a look here at the 2351. And this is our 5-inch deep cut bandsaw. Now this one's running a 44 7/8 inch by 1/2 inch blade, and I don't know if this is a 14 by 18 blade as well. Looks like it may be a little coarser or it may be the same, but obviously again you can purchase the blades that you want to based on the stock or material that you will be cutting, but it is a 44 7/8 inch blade and a 1/2 inch thick. We get a speed dial here that goes from 1 to 5, and you can max this out at the 490 SFM or surface feet per minute. And we also get, let me put the battery in here. We don't have a blade in it yet, but we also get a variable speed trigger here as well. So we can set the max at whatever we want to, and then the blade can control how much of that speed that we want in it. So in 1, that's all the way, that's max. We turn it up to 5. Again, we can make it slow with the trigger or go wide open at that 490 surface feet per minute. We also get an LED light here as well. And then we get an adjustable backrest here. So if we want the tool rest, we can just push this button here and slide it out. And if we don't want it, we can slide it back in. And it's got, I believe, 3 different spots. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So we can make that stick down below the body if we need that for a backrest, or we can slide it up out of the way if we don't want it in the way and we need more of a compact feel. We also get a larger rafter hook here, and that's going to give us a full 2.5 inches to hang this on anything we want to. We also get tool-free blade changes right here, so it's same process. Just open that up. That's going to loosen up that pulley, or close it down, and that's going to lock it into place, providing that tension that we need. Big secondary or auxiliary handle up here. This is a big tool. You're going to want to use that secondary handle there. Then the battery mounts up here out of the way. You get a large magnesium body here, so we're going to get ultra stiffness here, but at the same time it's going to remain light from that magnesium. So here on the opposite side, a little bit different of a blade cover. They basically slide off of each end, but the covers do come with the tool. You don't have to run it with those covers, but they're kind of nice to keep keep things from falling in there. But they easily come off, giving you access to the blade area. Same thing, we can put our blade and lock that into the guides, and then walk that around. Make sure everything's sitting down nice and low and out of the way and in all of the guides. Provide some tension from the lock. Lock that down. Now we're locked into place. And you can see, we see arrows here on the wheels that tell us which way this turns, so you can confirm that you have the blade on the correct way. I always like to turn it a little bit to, again, make sure nothing's walking out of place. It's easy to put our covers on. And now we can test our blade. Again, kind of bump it to make sure. riding nice and true. Same thing with the flex battery. That fuel gauge is just very easy to see. Now on this one, as far as the opening, you get a full 5-inch plus opening, and then as for the floor, same thing there. So a little over 5 inches on the height as well. Now overall size on this is going to be about 21 inches long, and with the battery about a foot tall, so about 12 inches tall. And then weight on this, I'll give you a kind of an approximate here. With the battery, about 13.5 pounds, about 13 pounds, 6.5 ounces. And with the compact saw, 8 pounds, 12 ounces, so 8 3/4 pounds on the small compact. And overall size on the compact saw, about 15 inches long and right at 9 inches tall. So this is a pretty simple first cut. We've got some 1/2 inch all thread in here, and we're just gonna let her rip. Something pretty common, some 1-inch square tubing. And by the way, you always want to start on a corner. Don't start on a flat if you don't have to. It will just cut a lot faster. Sometimes you can't help it and you have to cut on a flat. It just takes a little longer. So if you can ever start on kind of a peak, that will definitely help you cut better. Reduce a lot of friction as well. Very fast cutting for this. Now let's see if we can cut a 45. So 2.5 inch bandsaw, but we got to cut a 45 on this 1-inch square tubing. Let me give you some more room here. And that's about the max we're going to get out of a 2.5 inch bandsaw is on square tubing, 1-inch square tubing, being able to cut a 45. So when you start cutting 45s in different angles, the mouth of these tools and these compact bandsaws get taken up rather quickly. That's nothing against flex. That's just understanding that even though you have a larger capacity bandsaw in a compact, you got a 2.5 inch mouth, once you start turning that sideways and you've got depth here as well as width, you got different things you need to take into account for, that space gets taken up rather quickly. But great cutting on the Flex compact saw. Now here we've got some angle iron, some 2-inch angle iron, and if I just need to make straight cuts, again, I want to start at an angle if I can. So I've got enough to actually make straight cuts with this 2.5 inch bandsaw, but I can't make angles. You see, as soon as I make any kind of angle here, I'm butting up against the body of the saw. So straight cuts, yes, no problem. Now let's swap this out for the 5-inch. Now I'll go ahead and set this up for a 45-degree angle on this 2-inch angle iron. So you can see I've got plenty enough mouth in here to cover even at that angle. but this is a lot bigger saw than that compact bandsaw. So when you're stepping up, even into like 2-inch tubing, 2-inch angle iron, you may need a deep cut bandsaw as soon as you start cutting any angles, which if you're doing any type of fabrication or construction, you will have to cut angles. So many times there's a need for not just a compact bandsaw, but even for a deep cut bandsaw when you're only cutting 2-inch material. And now we've definitely got a situation where we need a deep cut. This is at least a 4-inch, yeah, so 4.5-inch outside diameter, and looks like probably every bit of 3/8 or 1/2-inch steel. Yeah, so at least 3/8 steel, 035 or 036 construction steel there. So we'll see how we do here. This is something where I definitely want to utilize my backrest, so I can slide that down, because then I can use it to rest against here as I start my cut. On these larger cuts as well, not a bad idea to shoot a little lube in there from time to time. Probably get that blade a little cooler by keeping lube on it. But you can see no problem at all with this deep cut bandsaw making that cut. Yeah, sorry for the downpouring rain and a little noise in the background, but these things really cut well, effortlessly cutting. It really just depends on what type of capacity you need as to which saw you would choose. And it might be something where you need both the compact as well as the deep cut. Now the FX2331, that's going to run you $269 without a battery. So just the tool, $269. And then the FX2351, which is the 5-inch deep cut, that's going to run you $319. Both of these will have a 5-year warranty. So be sure to check them out. We'll have links in the description. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And hey, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.